First started elementary school in the mid-1950s, I didn't realize that I was entering a school that was undergoing a demographic shift of being a school composed of students that were from Russian extraction, Japanese extraction, Jewish extraction. And I was like the avant-garde of the Chicano contingent that was soon to arrive and fill up every nook and cranny of East Los Angeles. I was the only student that spoke Spanish as a monolingual child. I was greeted at elementary school by being ordered to construct a dunce cap out of construction paper, and someone spelled out the word Spanish, and they told me I could take that off of my head when I learned to speak English, which took approximately 2 years.
There had been other generations of Mexican Americans whose parents were Mexican, but they were born here, and they had to grapple with that identity question. Well, are we American? Are we Mexican? To what degree are we American? To what degree are we Mexican? And they were always caught in between. And I remember the characterization of Mexican Americans during the 50s was that lost generation. It was a community that was trying to define for themselves who they were within a society that was rejecting them, that was rejecting their cultural values, that was rejecting their language, that was rejecting their traditions and history, and fundamentally was saying, you have no place on this landscape.
It was not American to dress in your Chicano dress. It was not American to comb your hair the way we did. They were trying to make us in their image. And if we were not going to accept that, we were not going to get full citizenship in this country.
So it's not surprising that I think a lot of the early works was an exploration of what that identity was. And so it took the form, for example, of a lot of the issues that affected the community, the social-political issues, gangs, farm workers issues, the Vietnam War, etc. But there were also, iconology was happening then. There was also an exploration of who we were as symbols, as people. You have, for example, the emergence of the Pachuco as a prototype of Chicano identity. Now you're going back, to the 40s now, but nonetheless, we in the 60s began to think, that Pachuco was going through the same experience of bilingualism and biculturalism and identity conflict that we have gone through, and in many ways he was a precursor to the Chicano of the 60s. And so it's not surprising, for example, that in Yo Soy Chicano there's a whole segment that I do with drama, with actors, exploring that Pachuco